friends, and welcome to the Happy Hour Jamie Ivey podcast. I'm your host, Jamie, and I'm so excited that you're here. Every week, I invite a girlfriend to join me on the show, and we chat about the big things in life, the little things in life, and everything in between. Before we get to our guest today, I want to thank our sponsor, and that is the book, Taking Back My Life. Rebecca Gregory is often referred to as a victim of the Boston Marathon bombing, but she refuses to see herself as a victim. She is a survivor. Taking Back My Life is the story of how Rebecca has had to overcome so much, including the amputation of her leg from that painful day on April 15, 2013, when a terrorist bomb changed her life. But her memoir also shows how Rebecca is a lot like you and me. Her life before the bombing was not always easy, and it took the attack to help her find the focus and spiritual direction she needed. You can find more about Rebecca at RebeccaMGregory.com. Her book, Taking Back My Life, can be found anywhere books are sold. Guys, today you're listening to episode number 135, and my guest is Jenny Randle. Jenny and her husband live in upstate New York with their 2 kiddos. Jenny believes so deeply that creativity is something that we have lost in our lives as adults, and that creativity and purpose in life intersect and play off of one another. Today, Jenny and I chat about the journey, the depression that her and her husband have walked through together recently. We talk about how, as kids, we have so much creativity in our life and how we lose that over time. We lose that creative freedom as adults. The fact that she has won an Emmy, yes, you heard me right, my very first happy hour guest that owns an Emmy. If you've been a guest on the show before and you own an Emmy and you didn't tell me about it, you're in trouble. Jenny owns an Emmy. She also had me do a creative exercise today with making noises with my mouth. You're just going to have to listen, and I didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway, and then it was kind of fun. Guys, before we get to the conversation with Jenny and I just want to ask a favor of you. If you're loving the show, or if you're just liking it a lot, would you give us a rating or a review over on iTunes? Super easy. Just go to jamieivey.com/iTunes. We'll take a 5-star review any day. A sweet review would be awesome as well. It's not just to build our heads up over here about the show, but actually when you leave a rating or you leave a review about the Happy Hour with Jamie Ivey, it helps other people find the show. And we want lots of people to be encouraged and inspired through these guests. So we would greatly appreciate it. jamieivey.com/iTunes. All right, guys, here is my conversation with Jenny. Hey, Jenny, welcome to the Happy Hour.
Hello.
I'm so glad you're here, all the way from upstate New York, which we're gaining some Northeast listeners by the handful. So welcome. You can say hi to your people that are listening.
Yeah, upstate.
Are you from New York?
Yes, I'm from Syracuse, New York.
Oh, and
I grew up around.
And you live around there, same place?
Yep, same place.
Have you ever moved away?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I lived in LA for years, and I did the whole West Coast thing.
Okay, and then you came back.
Came back.
What do you like better, East Coast or West Coast?
Oh, my goodness. Let's just say if my family lived on the West Coast, that's where I would be. So my husband's family lives there, so I'm not going to discredit them, and we love it. But we had kids, and we were like, let's figure out where to live. So we tried to live by either sets of parents, and my husband's job landed us back here.
Okay.
So.
I've never been to upstate New York.
Well, it's snowy. I mean, we still have snow on the ground, so you're missing that wonderful feature of it.
Like, I can't even imagine that, because when we're recording this, it's in March, and I'll tell you that it's so green here. It's beautiful. I know.
Way to rub it in my face.
I know, right?
We literally had school canceled last week because of a blizzard.
Oh my gosh.
Ridiculous.
And how long will that go on?
My daughter her birthday's in April. She was born in April, and it was snowing when I was giving birth. So, I mean, it varies, but sometimes until April.
That's
and it's
so
just
crazy.
Depressing.
Like, we'll be in the pool. A cold pool, mind that, but we'll be in the pool. That is so crazy. That's how your world is. It's so funny, just an airplane ride away, and it's such a different climate. But yeah, we love New York City. That's the only place we've ever been. So I feel like that we're just like tourist number one. That's the only place in New York we've been. But we have been there quite often and love it. Okay, Jenny, creative ninja is what you call yourself. And I just want you to know that I am super excited to hear about all that you do to help people be creative, because I had this kind of epiphany maybe a year and a half ago with a guest on the show. Carrie Sowers was on the show. And at the very end of our conversation, she mentions that she thinks all people are created to create and everyone's creative. And I was like, well, not me, Carrie. And she's like, yes, you are. And literally I will mark it in my brain as that conversation that made me go, oh, wait, maybe I can be creative too. And I just never thought about it.
Yeah. That's my message summed up. You just summed it up. I can leave. No, I'm kidding. Yes. I believe too, we're all born creative. I mean, I'm going to share a statistic. It's going to blow your mind. So a scientist, believe it or not, did this study and he tested 4 and 5-year-olds and they tested at the genius level of creatives. And then he tested those same people 5 years later and it kept just drastically going down. And then he tested those people, the same kids that were once 98% genius level of creatives and like using their imagination. He tested them as adults and it went down to 2%.
Wow.
2%. So
how does that happen?
We're all born creative. I mean, we're made in God's image and you know, how does it happen? That's the question.
That's the $1 million question right there.
I mean, it boils down to sin, shame, guilt, people pleasing, rules and regulations. I mean, there's so many different things that can stifle us. Just even saying, I'm not creative there. You just put that idea in your brain that you're not creative. When you are, you just have to nurture it. Over the years, we train ourselves not to be creative. So what I love to do and feel called to do is help people kind of embrace that childlike wonder again and retrain their brain to understand their creative DNA and that nature. So
that's so interesting. I was thinking about your study that you just said, and it takes me like all the way back to elementary school. And I feel like that somehow our society, and you can correct me since you're the ninja here, somehow our society looks at certain things as creative and those are deemed creative and then other things are not deemed creative. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So like for me, even like until a year and a half ago would be like, well, my husband's a creative one. And I still find myself falling in that trap because he writes music and he decorates our house and he paints pictures. I mean, like everything that is classic creative, he can do. That's how his brain works. But there's more to it. And so that happens as young kids, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be a scientist, you have to be the most creative person in the world because you're figuring out how to solve a problem, or you know what I mean? Like my husband used to be an engineer and he's so innovative. And yeah, the way you communicate, you can be creative in how you tell stories and how you communicate. And even you can be creative in your relationships and how you solve problems. It's not just, ooh, I'm an artist and I can paint a picture. Look at how creative I am. Everybody's creative. It's just like, how are you expressing it and what genre of creativity does that fall into?
So when you talk to grown adults about this and try to express this to them, I can feel like I feel the tension in my own soul with this of like, this is going to like take a lot out of me. I don't know if I want to be creative because and people who aren't quote unquote, they think they're not creative. They think creative sometimes are kind of weird and they're kind of out there. You know what I mean? Like just people think that. So do you feel the tension pushback when you're like to grown adults, no, you are creative and you can be creative?
I think I mean, there is that tension there because they've felt for so long that they're not creative. So when I'm speaking that over them, they're like, well, are you sure?
Right.
Are you sure?
Right.
So I think kind of like reaffirming in them, well, let's look at the things you do or like what your day's like, and let's find how you're creative in that and kind of giving them ownership over that. And then also we can cultivate our creativity by doing silly stuff for 5 minutes a day. And the more you really stretch that creative muscle, the bigger it grows and the more you'll find yourself in more creative situations and kind of even becoming aware of what that looks like.
Okay. So do you teach people to do these things every day?
Yeah. Well, I'm writing my book about it. Which it's funny because I don't know about you, Jamie, but I've heard somebody once say that there's speakers who are writers. So like they enjoy speaking, and there's writers who are speakers. Right. So their main thing is writing. And I think I'm more of a speaker who's attempting to be a writer because it is so hard for me to write like 500 words a day. It's like the biggest creative stretch in the world for me.
It is,
so
yes.
What are you?
Well, I always say that I feel more comfortable speaking for sure. And so I just finished a book. Well, it's not finished by any means, but I just turned in a very first stab at it, you know. And I always say that writing is not where I feel most comfortable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
but you've had to push yourself through it.
Oh my gosh. And it was one of the hardest things I've done. And this goes back to your thing about creativity is my husband's also a writer, but we write so differently that sometimes I feel like, well, he's better than me, but then I have to remind myself it's actually just different and we write differently, you know? He's, that's good. Again, very like eloquent with his words and lots of description. And I struggle with that. And so can you believe that we both wrote books at the same time? That's dumb. Don't ever do that in a marriage.
Oh, that's amazing.
Don't ever do it.
I'm sure like if you're competitive, you're like, oh, how many words did you write today? Oh my gosh, where are you at?
For sure. Well, we kind of had to, his book was due literally like 2 months before mine. So I think he spent a lot of time writing and I was like a little time writing. And then when he was done, I was like, okay, now it's my turn. A lot of time writing and you're done.
Yeah.
We kind of had to weigh it out. Okay. So, but your book is about doing these creative exercises. Tell me some of the creative exercises that you help people with.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I do want to point out that you mentioned how you have to find your unique voice. And I think that's huge in finding our creativity. It's like how we create, it's not going to look like what other people do. It's not meant to fit in a box. So being comfortable in your uniqueness is something that's important as well.
Okay. Stop right there. Cause I think this is, I don't want to lose this because this is so important for people to hear. Especially women. I feel like sometimes we look at someone who does like quote unquote our dream, what we want to do, and then we just emulate everything they do. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And so we're not being ourselves. We're not using our giftings. We're just using what we think we need to do to be that. I think women struggle with that so much.
Yeah. It's almost like we have to understand our identity in Christ because we have to know that we're valuable enough to just be us and be comfortable in that. And we can glorify God in our lives with who he made us to be, not who God made Jamie to be, who I can try to be like, you know, like let's be comfortable as us, as you, and just own it and love it. And as I'm writing, my editor's always like, this is funny. This is you, like, be you. Cause I'll try to find myself trying to be so fancy. And she's like, no offense, but you're not like, I'm not fancy.
Right.
Okay, guys, I'm not fancy. I'll tell jokes and eat frozen pizza. Like, and when you try to mold yourself into being something you're not, it comes across as fake even and not genuine. And just be who God created you to be because you're uniquely made and we want to hear that, you know?
And it's not sustainable either. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Like trying to be someone else is not sustainable.
It's draining.
It's draining. At the end of the day, it's draining. I remember, I think about this a lot. I get to the opportunity to talk about this sometimes with finding my voice in the podcasting world. And I just have had all these like random dreams. Like I know you even told me about dreaming about being a speaker and we can step on that later. But I used to have all these dreams about things I wanted to do with having a voice. That's what I always felt like. I want to have a voice. And I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what that looked like. And then just kind of stumbling into the podcasting, I finally felt, it's so crazy. I've never felt more alive in a job, in a ministry, in anything than I do with this. And it is so much fun. And I feel like, man, I'm so thankful that I didn't try to be like someone else's podcast. I just got to be me, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's it's been really fun for me to figure that out. I feel like I've had a lot of growth in feeling like what makes me feel most comfortable where I am.
Yeah. That's so great. And it's really needed because the message you carry is not going to be, you know, like that's unique for you and the world needs to hear that message. And it's for everybody too, for themselves. They have to figure out what that looks like and understand their identity and who God made them to be. Because you know what, when you fail trying to be somebody else, it gets confusing.
Right.
It's really confusing.
Right.
But if you fail, like you can fail in a healthy way and be like, okay, God, like, I know it's all about you. Like, let's do this thing again. So
yeah. And I think that's good. I've never thought about that when you fail as someone else. I think when you fail as someone else, it's kind of harder to get back up because you didn't really know what you were doing or who you were.
Yeah. And you're not standing strong in the first place.
Yeah.
So you're going to stay down. Oh, this is fun. Ooh, we could talk about
right? Okay. So your book with the exercises that you do.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. And I feel like I'm getting a little nervous inside and my stomach is a little like flipping that I feel like this conversation is going to move towards you saying, hey, Jamie, let's do one. And see, I'm already nervous, Jenny.
See, you're like prophesying over this thing right now. Yes, that is what we're doing. So guys, listeners, everybody. So creative exercises, these are little things you can do throughout your day. I mean, we do it with our kids every morning. Like, let's do funny voices, or let's
you really do this every morning with your kids?
Yeah, when we eat breakfast, we do like copy this beat, and I like lay down. I'm not musically inclined at all. Like I'm just making stuff up, but it's fun, and it's just like stretching that muscle and getting ourselves out there. So one thing we like to do, and I want you guys to know, I have a almost 4-year-old and a 5-year-old.
You're in the trenches. Got it. Yep.
I'm in the trenches, but they're the most creative humans I've ever been around, and even being around them like has made me realize, okay, that's what creativity looks like. So I love it.
It's like that study that you said. I mean, 4 and 5.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. So one thing we do, this game we play, it's called the sound effects game.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm laughing because I'm nervous for you.
No, I can't do this.
What we have to do is I'm going to say a word and you have to make. So, okay, I
Jenny,
come from the world of
video. Let me just tell you. I cannot do this. Like my family makes so much fun of me.
Are you creative?
My family makes so much fun of me because I try to do different accents and they all sound exactly the same.
I have a story about accents I'll share with you next. But Jamie, listen, you already put yourself in a box. Come on.
I'm literally sweating, Jenny. Okay, I can do this. Let's go.
Don't sweat.
I just unzipped my jacket. Like that's going to help me. You know, like I'm getting ready.
Focus. So this
is like when Joy Eckridge told me I should go to improv class.
Oh, you should. That would be hysterical. I wish we lived closer. I would go with you. Oh my gosh.
Okay, I'm nervous, but let's go, Jenny. Let's get this over with.
Okay. So I was a video editor. You can spend like an hour searching for the perfect sound effect. So I believe you have this in you, and you're going to make a sound effect for me only using your mouth.
I cannot do this. Like I wish you could see me. Okay.
Listen, this will be easy.
Okay.
I'm desperately searching. I need a sound of a cat.
Meow. Okay, you gave me a softball for that one. That was so easy.
That was great. I mean, you didn't even hesitate. You went for it. Okay. A door opening and then slam shut.
Oh no. Only my mouth?
Yeah. You can use props.
Okay, here we go. I can't. Okay, one more. Like this.
That was amazing. What did you use to do that slam on the end?
Just my hands.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. You're so innovative.
I know, right?
So innovative. Okay. Last one. A dryer.
Oh, okay. Oh, gosh. Okay. People that are listening are doing this right now. They're like, come on, Jamie.
You can do it.
I can't. Okay. I don't know what it sounds. I'm trying to think of what a dryer sounds like, as if I don't do 8 loads of laundry a day.
Channel it. You got this.
Oh my gosh, that was good.
That's impressive.
That was really good, I must say.
Wow. That was amazing.
Okay. Okay, give me one more then. I feel like I can do this.
Oh, so you're so hooked. All right. I'm just like looking around trying to find inspiration. A car accident.
Oh no. Let's see.
Tragic.
Okay, this is kind of fun.
Yeah. I know, right? See, you just spent, 3 minutes stretching your creativity.
Yes, I'm going to do this with my kids when they get home from school today.
Oh my gosh. It's going to, I'll literally be in tears crying at how intense my 5-year-old gets. He's a little dude. He's so funny. He gets so into it. Yeah, that's a fun game.
Okay, these are game. You know how they tell you to be a good parent, have those conversation cards at your dinner table?
Yeah.
Did you like how I said to be a good parent? But we have those and they're super fun. But this is another thing that you could do around the dinner table. My kids are older, so morning time is everyone's asleep and they're almost teenagers and we're just trying to get out the door really fast. But this would be so fun at dinner time.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh, and then there's, of course, freestyle rap battles. I mean, who doesn't love a good rap battle?
My boys would eat that up.
You pick
so
a
would
subject
Story, by the way. Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. Okay, give the listeners 2 more ideas. So we have the sound effects, freestyle
raps. Use your imagination. Could you just start the sentence? Could you imagine if, and then you guys just fill in the rest. So let your imagination go wild.
Okay.
And then there's a lot of writing exercises you can do. If you just Google writing challenges, tons of things come up. Like using only 7 words to describe your mom, things like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And Yeah, they're really fun. It's really funny stuff to do. There was one I wanted to say. Oh, when you work out or when you go for walks or whatever cardio you enjoy doing, kind of do that and don't listen to music and just let your brain be free.
Mm-hmm.
Because studies have shown that when you're kind of just in that zone or in nature and you're exploring, that your mind will come up with all these creative things without even really having to try. So kind of do that and then take a notebook and write down what you were thinking about.
You know, that's so true. I find myself when I walk, I usually listen to podcasts. And so I feel like that my brain doesn't ever get a rest almost because I'm listening, and I'm usually when I'm walking, I might listen to like a sermon or something like that. And so I have done that. I used to run a lot a long time ago. And when I would run, even if I had music on, because it was like just, and running was like, it's more intense for me than walking, obviously. Hello, that's normal. But anyhow, a lot of times I would come up with, when I used to blog a lot, I would come up with an entire blog on my run because my brain would just like almost have the freedom to just let go. So I see what you're saying. It's so true.
Yeah. And even if you listen to like worship music quietly and like kind of get in that zone with Jesus and like you're worshiping and you just let yourself explore and see what your mind comes up with, it's fun and exciting. And like you said, you wrote whole blog pieces.
Yeah. I mean, just from on a run, it really is. I saw you said one time, you said when you're able to walk in creative freedom, God can use you to influence culture like never before.
Yes.
How do you merge creativity and influence in culture? Because sometimes I can see how that works. Like in my husband's world, he works with a lot of development with the worship culture here at our church. And so I see that. But what does that look like for the normal person just, doing their normal everyday life? How does creativity help them influence the culture around them?
I love talking about this. And it's such a heavy question because I think there's a few things that go into that. And one of them is having a healthy identity. And another thing is kind of understanding your purpose. And our purpose is to glorify God. So what dreams and talents do we have to do that? So when you understand your purpose, glorifying God, and having a healthy identity in Christ, then whatever you're doing, you can be influential. So when I'm home with my kids, it's like, am I influencing them in a healthy way, in a creative way? And what does that look like? So I think even like the words we speak on social media or the things we're posting, like we all have a platform. Let's be honest. If you're on social media, which majority of humans are, then you have a platform. So it's like, how are you using that to creatively influence your sphere of people? Like, what are you doing? And I believe that God wants to use that. I mean, like never before, we need to be on the front lines being an influence because media and radio and everything, it's so accessible that if we're not in the front line speaking life over people, encouraging people, it's not just always doom and gloom and like, that's the wrong term, but it's not always these bad news stories that we need to be sucked in, but where are we speaking life over situations and how we're encouraging others by using our voice and understanding our identity and influencing people in that way.
Yeah. And I even think about just with our kids. I mean, those that are listening that are mamas, we have that, that kind of opportunity and responsibility and blessing to be able to be huge influencers over our kids as well. Okay, Jenny, I want to switch gears here just for a little bit.
Sure.
You told me that you and your husband walked through some like depression issues. What did that look like from your side of the coin with walking through that with your husband?
Yeah, so he's given me permission to talk about this. We're not talking about him behind his back.
Of course.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
So we kind of went through this whirlwind. Like I said earlier, we lived on the West Coast for a while. I worked in LA for a while, and then we lived in Orange County. And when I got pregnant with Max, my 5-year-old, we decided we want to be closer to family. So we ended up moving back to New York. Well, it was first time for him. We moved back to New York, and my husband's a surfer. Like he really connects with God in the waves, and like that's a spiritual experience for him. So I kind of like took that away from him, not realizing what a huge thing that was for him. I don't think I really valued it in the way I should have, and I always just thought it was, it's just a hobby, and it is just a hobby. But for him, it was more than that. Like he would pray surfing every day, and like really, really connected with our Creator. So we move here and he gets in this new job, and the job was really unhealthy. The atmosphere was, and And then we had our son, and then 18 months later, we had a little girl. So we're having babies back to back.
Uh-huh.
And just a lot of stuff was going on. And he is the best dad ever. Like, he loves our kids. So it's what I love about him the most, that and that he's hilarious. And so we're doing all these different things. And I think it was a lot really fast. And we didn't really check in on, okay, how are we doing with all of these big, huge changes? And it kind of got out of control by maybe when my daughter was 1, we're like, wait a minute, you're not acting the way you used to act. So we kind of started analyzing like what's going on, and we realized that he was just really struggling with depression. And so we started talking about it and kind of asking his family about it and like, what do you guys think? And just started seeking counsel and getting help. And he was just really, really stuck in it and all the changes and kind of not figuring out how he fits in here on the East Coast, because it is different. Yeah. It's a different lifestyle. And then having to parent and going to work, it was just messy, you know? So, but we made it through. So from my perspective, I definitely could have been wiser, realizing it sooner. Because, you know, you're busy, you're raising these kids. I mean, we're still raising them, obviously, but when they're little babies, it's like, go, 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 go. You get them into bed and you're like, okay, freedom. You just want to like unwind. And like, so we could have been way more intentional with doing like check-ins, like, oh, how are you feeling today? And like stuff like that. And we probably would have caught it sooner, but we were just so in the thick of it that you don't even realize it.
I mean, what you're saying is just, this is not just you guys. This is classic in the thick of whatever it might be. For you guys, it was 2 babies. I mean, that's 2 babies. New job change. It's like all of the classic top stressors you just experienced in, 2 years. So what did that feel like for your husband to feel as like he wasn't himself, and you start noticing in it? Was there any resistance to getting help or getting treatment or getting counseling or anything like that from either one of you? Or were you guys like, hey, we can handle this, we can do it? Or was it an automatic, no, we need to get some help for this?
And on top of that, he also has health problems. So he was having all these weird symptoms. So we were having to go to all these different doctors, and people were like, you're crazy. Like, they didn't really say that, but it was like this mystery. Like, we wanted to go be on an episode of House. Have you ever seen that show?
Yes.
Like, where he like puts all these pieces together and figures out like what this guy's issue is. Like, we want to go on that show because we were desperately like, why it's not okay that he's like, do all this weird stuff's happening. So yeah, so all of that piled on. So we ended up getting some answers where he wasn't sleeping. He has sleep apnea. And you would never know that because he's like the skinniest guy you've ever seen in the world. I mean, typically it's for people. Right. I'm not going to stereotype, but whatever. Yeah. He doesn't fit the normal requirements of people that have sleep apnea. So right there, he was blowing the doctor's mind. So he started being on a sleep machine, which I don't know, it's the loudest thing in the world. It's like,
do that noise. Yeah, exactly.
And then you move and it's like, and you're like, oh my gosh. It's really romantic.
Yeah, it's like your own sound machine. Yep.
Yeah. I'm like, this is lovely. So we've battled through, but we'll make it. So anyways, so the doctor figured that piece out, and then he started getting more sleep, and then he was alert enough to be like, all right, what's the next step? Like, getting sleep is step A. And then we started going to counseling and kind of figuring that out. And he was on meds for a while to just kind of balance him back out so he could feel like himself. And now he's slowly kind of transitioning off. And so, yeah, it's been a journey for sure. And I'm glad we're talking about it, because for males to be like, oh, I'm depressed, that's kind of not common. Right. So I love that he's willing to share and work through it and battle through it. And you know what else we did, Jamie? He left his job.
Really? Did that help or what?
Well, he actually just put in his 2 weeks a couple of days ago.
Oh, just now. Like
just now.
Okay.
I know. Well, I say he left his job because we've been kind of positioning ourselves towards that. Okay. So with our marketing company he's been taking on a lot more clients, and like I've been throwing a lot more things at him. So we're positioning him
to be able to do that.
So he went to half days, and we're seeing, okay, this theory is not a theory. It can actually happen. So then he's like, I'm out. Yeah. So it's already just the half days have been a game changer for us, and just giving us the flexibility. And yeah, it's been awesome.
Well,
it's good.
I love to hear people talk about their struggles, no matter what it is, because I feel like it makes other people feel like, okay, I'm not so alone in this. And so depression is just one of those things that people struggle with daily, everywhere, in the church, out of the church, every socioeconomic rate, whatever. It's across the board. But I feel like it's this thing that sometimes people are a little afraid to talk about. So thank you guys for being a voice for that, because I know a lot of people it just makes them feel like I'm not alone when someone else says they've been through this. Even though everyone looks different, every struggle looks different, just to feel like, okay, somebody else has been through this. I know that I'm not the only one. Cause I think there's the isolation that you could feel. And I don't know if you guys felt like that. I don't know if you had people speak into you, during that, or if you ever felt isolated in this struggle. I don't know. Did you? Oh,
for sure. I mean, I struggled with depression horribly in college. So I can't believe I missed the warning signs with my husband. Like, of course he's like, right. I've been there. I get it. Like, I can't, it was so silly looking back. I'm like, duh. So yes, the isolation is huge. And it was a game changer for us when my husband, Matt, said, okay, I need to start talking about this. So he would talk about it with his family, and they would ask him hard questions like, well, what are you doing to kind of get better? Like, what does it look like for you and God? Like, let's figure this out. And that was when the game changer happened, when you invite community into it, because there's power in prayer. Like, trust that people are praying for you. We want to pray for you. Like, if you're struggling with depression, like, we want to pray for you, and you're going to get through it. God's in it. He hasn't abandoned you. You're not alone. Invite that community in. And I think people will be surprised how effective and powerful that is.
Yeah. But do you think sometimes it's hard to want to invite the community in when you're in the midst of that depression?
Oh my gosh, totally.
So how do you get to the point where you are comfortable doing that? Is it?
Honestly, for my husband, I was like being the wife that was like, okay, if you don't tell your friends tomorrow, I'm going to have to call them. Like,
I mean, honestly, that's what it takes sometimes, right?
Yeah. And we were at that point where I was kind of getting some phone numbers and going to be like, listen, Matt needs his people. Like, you need your people. Yeah. And I think it's, one, being aware of what's going on, and two, if you have permission to do that for other people, like gathering the troops and being like, hey, listen, you need to speak life into my husband right now because he's really struggling. And I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. Inviting people into the struggle is huge. It takes, it's almost like laying down your pride. But I always say together is better. And that's in like the good things and the hard things. Together is always better for that.
Yeah.
Guys, I know you're enjoying this conversation with Jenny, and right now I want to tell you about a sponsor of this show real quick, and that is Africa New Life. Africa New Life Ministries exists to help children escape the cycle of poverty in Rwanda. A key component to this intervention is making sure that children receive the food that they need to succeed. Consistent, nutritious food is vital for children to not only have healthy bodies, but also learn, grow, and thrive. Food is the first essential in establishing stability. 38% of Rwandan children suffer from malnutrition. But guys, you can help with this. Go to africanewlife.org and see how you can be a part of the solution. 83 cents provides one meal for a child in Rwanda. $25 provides a month's worth of meals. See what you can do at africanewlife.org. Okay, here is the rest of my conversation with Jenny. Okay, so I know that you get the awesome privilege of speaking and doing stuff like that. And that's been a dream of yours for a long time, hasn't it?
Yes. I laugh because I know where this is going.
You want to tell me that story?
A dream, yeah. So I mentioned I worked in Hollywood for years, and I did video editing. I did video editing.
Didn't you win an Emmy or something?
Yes.
Do you have it in your house?
I do, and people literally come over to take pictures with it. It's really funny.
I need you to send me a picture of you and your Emmy.
I will like leave space in the picture so we can Photoshop you in it and like act like you're touching it.
That would be even better.
People, it's really funny. Yeah, so I won an Emmy, and I would work on...
Okay, can we stop real quick? Like, because you just said I won an Emmy. No one on my show has ever won an Emmy. And so, like, how old were you when you won the Emmy? What'd you win it for? Tell me the Emmy thing first.
Okay, well, a little backstory. So I do video editing, and I was working on content for like Madagascar and the Bee Movie, a lot of DreamWorks and Paramount and like stuff like that, behind the scene featurettes. Like, this is how a movie's made. I was editing stuff for that. And then when I moved to Orange County, I started working on an educational series for chemistry.
Okay, that sounds exciting.
That aired on PBS. Super, so glamorous compared to the other stuff I was working on. So the funny thing is that I won the Emmy for that, the science show, which a lot of people love. And I'm not going to do, like, it was great. It was fun. But it's just, it would have been a little more glamorous if it was for the other project. Am I right?
Hey, but you know, like, okay, so maybe it would have been, but an Emmy is an Emmy. So let's just leave it at that.
And the funny thing is, so a week before I won, we got another award for the show. And I was talking to Matt, my husband. I'm like, oh my gosh, we got an award, but we have to pay money to like physically get it. And he's like, we will never pay money for an award unless it is an Emmy or an Oscar. And I'm like, noted. A week later, get a phone call. We won an Emmy, but you have to pay $250 to get it. And I'm like, sold. I will buy that Emmy.
Stop right now. Everyone that wins an Emmy has to pay for it?
True story. You know what? I Googled it. If it's like primetime, like actors, if like legit celebs win an Emmy.
Okay, but $250 to them is like 25 cents to me.
I know.
So,
right?
Yeah, you just find it on the floor and flip it to them.
Yeah, just flip it.
Yeah, take it.
I'll take 700 Emmys.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, let me.
So everyone has to pay for their Emmy.
You have to pay for your Emmy. Oh, and then they're like, you can come to the party. Oh, but it's an additional money. And I get it because they're a business, for sure. Right? They have to pay for the fancy stuff.
I get it.
But but it's not expected, for sure. People are like always shocked when I tell them.
I'm shocked too. I've never heard that, but from a business side point of view, it does make perfect sense. I mean, they're not just going to hand out free stuff. Yeah. Nothing's free in the world.
Nothing's
except for Jesus. I almost said that.
That'll preach.
Except for Jesus. But it will cost you something. That's for sure. Okay. Carry on with your speaking story. And because I stopped you at the Emmy because I could not even, I couldn't handle it.
We got sidetracked.
So you were in LA working.
And I told my friend one day, I'm like, I feel called to be a speaker. Literally, this is all the person said. Why would you feel called to do that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And I like shoved that dream away for 10 years based on one sentence somebody said. And you know, when we have these dreams, they become like, they're fragile. It's scary. You're being vulnerable. You feel like a mess in it. And you're like, I don't know. You just want somebody to be like, yes. But because that person didn't respond the way I had imagined, like this big, glorious, receive my dream, like, and they weren't even being negative. That's the funny thing. Like, I kicked myself.
It was like a genuine question.
It was a question.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, why would I do that? I'm not worthy. So So I ignored it for 10 years. I had no confidence in it. But you know what? Every time I saw, and we kind of touched on this earlier, every time I saw somebody, a woman influencing people through speaking, I was like, oh my gosh, I connected to it. And I'm like, I could do that. And it wasn't that I was like, well, maybe a little I was jealous, but that wasn't like my heart behind it. Right. It was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if I could do that too. So it was always really intriguing to me. So, you know, with dreams, you can't really shove them away. They kind of always lurk in the back of your mind. And so I'm doing this video editing. These dreams are lurking. I'm getting into ministry. We become foster parents for a while. And then I did speaking. I did my first speaking gig and it went really good. I was talking about church and technology at a conference and it was fun. It was super fun. I loved it. And then we started having our own family, having babies and moved back here. So it kind of wasn't the right season for it. And then God one day was like, are you ready? Well, it wasn't. He said it just like that. Right. Are you ready?
You could throw that into your little games. Like, what does God sound like? So there you go.
Oh, it would definitely be Morgan Freeman, like way deeper.
100%.
So I'm like, yes, God, let me run this by my friend. So I call my best friend. You know, you should get counsel on your dreams. Let's not be crazy. I'm like, what do you think about this? And of course, she's like, yes. And I started, and then I was like, okay, God, I'm ready. And you're going to laugh. I just like waited for people to get the memo. Like I was expecting pastors just to be like, I had this vision.
Oh, right. Yeah. You were ready and you just thought people were going to call you.
Yeah. People were just going to call me up. Like they were going to get the memo.
Yep.
Easy as cake. No, it didn't happen that way.
Because it doesn't happen that way.
I'm like, Jesus, where are these magical moments you have spoken of? Like when I am making myself available. So there were a lot of tears in the midst of like pursuing this dream, like being gutsy enough to be like, let's do it. And then like being like, but why isn't anything happening? So he's kind of like, well, let's like position yourself to chase this dream. So like I got into like Toastmasters, which is a public speaking club. So I started positioning myself for these things. I went to a conference where I had this major God encounter. It was a speaker writer conference. And oh my gosh, I get emotional telling the story. And you know, you're surrounded by hundreds of women that are like, I'm a speaker, I'm a writer. And it's super intimidating.
Right.
It's intimidating and fantastic. Like it's so good. And we're all just hanging out. And during one of the worship sessions, I was just like ugly crying to the point where all my friends were like,
do you need to walk out?
Are you going to be okay? Yeah. You're making it awkward for us. Like, here's some tissues. So it was like, I was a mess, just sobbing my face off. And I think it was just a release that like I had to go through because I just wasn't trusting God in it, you know, like I wasn't trusting. So anyways, I snuck away. They had this beautiful prayer room and I snuck away to this prayer room and I was just praying. And like the problem that I was facing was that the dream felt so big and it felt so huge. And like, who was I? Like I'm just me. Like I felt so unqualified, so unworthy. Like why me was what I was always asking God. Like, well, why me? And so I was kind of just in this moment and I had like this, I don't know how to explain it other than I know that it was God speaking. And I saw this dome, like this huge dome shape. And that like represented my dreams, like the thing that I felt called to in this season, which was speaking. So that there's this huge dome and then there was a little dot and that represented me. And I felt like God said, do you trust me with this? And, you know, when God asks a question, it's not because he doesn't know the answer. So I'm like, oh, let me think about that, God. And I'm like, yes, of course I trust you with this. And when I said that, like, so I was that little dot in that huge dream. And when I said, yes, God, I trust you, the whole dome filled up and God was like filling up the space between me and that dream. And it overflowed even. And God's like, when it starts overflowing, you got to dream bigger. You have to dream bigger. And what I got from that was that God was saying, I'm going to give you the resources. I'm going to give you the people. I'm going to give you the tools you need to achieve this dream. All you have to do is be obedient. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And literally, I can't even tell you the things that have happened. I had a coworker I worked with the other day call and be like, hey, this was a few weeks after I went to this conference. She's like, let's start a business together. So we started just brainstorming these ideas. And she's like, you know what? I actually feel called, because at this point, she didn't know I wanted to be a speaker. She's like, I actually just want to invest in you and your speaking ministry. Like, and to have, I mean, God puts people in your world to help do that. And you can help others achieve their dreams too. So that moment was so powerful for me. Like, do you trust me with this? And do you trust me to fill that space? And I think when we're achieving these dreams that seem so big, so unattainable, you feel so unworthy. It's not about you. It's about God and trusting that he's going to fill those spaces. He's going to put people in your life and the resources to help you achieve that. And Jamie, for you, I'm sure you see that all the time with the stuff you're going after.
Oh gosh, for sure. I mean, I was even thinking when you're telling that story about being in the room with speakers and writers, how intimidating it is. I mean, as someone who's writing a book, I have a lot of friends who write amazing New York Times bestseller books. Like, wow, you know what I mean? And so for me, I'm like, I went through a season last fall of where some of my friends were like, when are you going to see your counselor? Like, I was just feeling completely inadequate. And I'm in the midst of writing a book. Someone has invited me into writing it. And I still felt like, I don't know that I can do this. And I don't know that I'm good enough to do this. And it was lies. I mean, you know, hello. And it was just this short season where I was super struggling. And so I feel that as well as like, okay, here's these dreams, here's these things in front of us. God, do I trust that I'm not just walking into this blindly and that you're here? Yes, I have to, right? Or else whatever. And I know there are so many people listening because the listeners of the happy hour are like some dreamers and doers. I just stole that from my friend Jen. But they're like dreamers and doers, and they do big things and they have big dreams. And so just your encouragement to them of just like keep walking towards that dream and really trust God to be there. And then just be yourself. I mean, I feel like all of the conversations we've had today kind of summed up and like, keep dreaming, be yourself, be who you are, in what you do.
Find your creativity.
Find your purpose, be your unique self that you are.
Yeah.
Love it. Jenny, so amazing. Okay. Hey, what 3 things are you loving these days?
Oh my gosh. This Is Us TV show.
Yes. Check. Of course. I'm so behind, so don't spill anything.
Oh my gosh. Get your tissues ready.
Mm-hmm.
What else do I love? Sage Harvest Gourmet Jerky. Have you heard of it?
No, I have no idea what you just said.
They sell gourmet jerky.
Oh, like beef jerky.
Like beef jerky. And it's like natural and amazing. But they give 10% of their profits to orphan care.
Oh, I love that.
That's about a win-win. Yeah, you would love the owners of this place.
And I'm sure I could get it online.
You can get it. I'll send you some.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah. You're so famous. I'll send
there you go.
And then, the third thing. So my husband and I are going through this creative couples course, and it's like counseling, but it's an online course and you can do it anytime. And we literally just do it when the kids are sleeping. We're like, let's go have fun and take a couples course. And it's fun because it gives you like questions to engage with. And it's a nice refresher, like, cause we're switching seasons and doing new stuff. So it's good for us. That's been really fun.
That's awesome. That sounds right up your alley as well.
Yeah.
My friend Logan just told me that, and she was on the show a couple weeks ago. She just told me that she is taking a class online, a comedy class from Steve Martin.
I saw that. Being advertised, and I was like, who would not want to take that?
She told me if nothing else, I need to go watch the video of the advertisement.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
So now I've got a friend doing improv and a friend taking Steve Martin's class, and now you doing creativity stuff. I feel like my brain is like an overload, but it's all good stuff. Like, this is awesome stuff. I love it.
I feel like you should end this podcast with a freestyle rap.
I feel like that since I run this show, I'm going to say no to that. You can. Jenny, go for it.
Since I'm a guest on this show, I'm going to also say no to that.
Good. We are all in charge of our own microphones here. What are you reading these days?
Okay, you're going to make fun of me.
I won't, I
promise. I'm reading a book for business. It's called .com Secrets.
Okay.
And it's about marketing. It's by Russell Brunson. It's great. I highly recommend it. And then for spiritual and personal development, I'm reading Chase the Lion. Have you read it?
No, but I've heard of it.
Mark Batterson.
Yep.
Amazing. Like, talk about dreaming. Like, if the slogan is, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small.
Oh, that's good. Is he the one that wrote the prayer circle?
Oh my gosh, I feel like a bad reader. I think he did.
Okay.
I made that up. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's good.
But I know what book you're talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I just finished. I read A Wrinkle in Time recently. Have you read that?
Oh. No.
I know. My friend Melanie Dale told it to me a long time ago on the show, and so I picked it up over spring break. And it was good. It was just okay to me. I know that's gonna make.
I know. I was
gonna
say, I feel like you're not loving it. It was just.
I read the whole thing and I liked it. So there's that. But I liked it.
On a scale of 1 to 5.
I think I gave it a 3.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyhow. Okay, Jenny, this has been so fabulous. Thanks for coming on the happy hour.
Thanks for having me.
I hope that, and I know that as people are listening, they are now going to be having creative conversations around their dinner table tonight. You can do it with like your friends, your husband, small group, your coworkers. Sit around that co-working office and make people make noises. That sounds fun. That sounds amazing.
And send us video.
Oh my gosh.
Because I want to see it.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.
Guys, wasn't that a fun chat with Jenny? You can see now why she calls herself the creative ninja. Am I right? I loved her story about just dreaming big dreams for herself and going after them. She had great advice for talking about walking through depression with her husband. And I was super proud of her because she said, although he gave her full permission to talk about it, it was one of the first times she's talked about it publicly. And I just think that takes a lot of strength and courage. And how many people will that help? And so thank you, Jenny, for sharing that story with us. Also, her Emmy. Hello. Did you know you had to pay for your Emmy? Crazy. And you guys, remember the jerky that she told me that she loved? A box of jerky just showed up on my porch this week. Thank you, Jenny, so much for that gift. Anyhow, I had such a fun time talking with Jenny. Find her on Instagram, find her on social media, become her friend. You'll love her. Guys, I want to thank our last sponsor for today's show. And these sponsors make these shows free for you, so I am so grateful for them. You know, we all crave life-giving, lasting friendships. We all do. Lifting other women up in friendships is one of my greatest joys that God has given all of us. But isn't it hard sometimes to know how to make and keep friendships? In her newest book, Messy, Beautiful Friendship, Christine Hoover shares relatable stories of friendship successes and goof-ups. Through honest storytelling, Christine invites you to overcome insecurities and pursue God-honoring friendships in every season of life. This is a perfect gift for a girlfriend, sister, mother, or just yourself. Messy, Beautiful Friendship will be available April 18th, and you can pre-order it from your favorite bookseller. Today's show is edited by Logan Garza, and the music is from Jason Poe. I hope you guys enjoyed last week's show with Tish Oxenreider about traveling the world and how you and I can do that as well. Next week, my guest is Amber Newberry, and we talk about trauma and how our bodies heal from it. Plus, she shares some trauma that she's been through and the ways that she has seen God show up in those different ways. Amber also explains to me exactly what holy yoga is. I know what holy means and I know what yoga means, but she put them together and she told me all about it. So join us next week when I talk with Amber Newberry. Guys, enjoy your week. Share the show with a girlfriend and have a happy hour with a friend.